Welcome to the Art of Balancing It All podcast, a podcast where we get real about the struggles of trying to balance it all from love, family, self-care, career, and entrepreneurship.
Every 2 weeks, we'll talk to dope guests who will give you the goods on how to succeed in this thing called life.
We are your hosts. I'm Pam Thompson-Smith, better known as The Firm.
And I'm Titi Lyle Ellis, the ambassador of Buzz.
Welcome to the Art of Balancing It All. I am Pam Thompson-Smith, also known as The Firm.
And I am Titi Lyle Ellis, aka the ambassador of Buzz.
Well, we're back. We
are.
I'm waiting. I want you to say, so what have you been up to?
So what have you been up to, Miss Pam Thompson-Smith?
Finally, after 7 months. Vacation.
Congratulations on that. That is huge.
2 trips in 2 weeks. That's more than I've done in 2 years.
Yes, indeed.
Because I have been working. So I have just had a ball, got some rest, and had some fun, and getting ready for October 19th. If you did not know, October 19th is a national holiday. It's my birthday. Yes. So we're getting ready to, soar, not walk into, but we get ready to soar into chapter 53. So I'm really excited.
You don't look a day near 53. So congratulations.
I know that's right. So that's what I've been up to. And I'm coming back to 3 projects off the bat, but just, really excited to get some rest and now have a whole lot more energy and get ready for all the things that's coming up over the next couple weeks. So
that is fabulous.
Exciting stuff. It's time to get out and vote, right?
Mm-hmm. And I am so excited about that. I'm ready to stroll to the polls.
Exactly. So I'm excited. I do a lot of work with voter registration. So we just ended phase 1. But if you didn't make the voter registration, you still have time. So early voting is October 15th through the 30th. Mm-hmm. And so you can go to any of the polls that are open, and with the one stop, you can register and vote right there at the same time. So we're just here to say, go vote. Your voice matters. Please go vote.
Yes. Get out there. Get it done.
Get it done. So I'm working on with the African American Cultural Festival. We have a big march coming up. So you'll be hearing more details about that and just different things that are coming up to encourage people to just make sure that now that you've registered, you have to have a plan to vote. Where are you going to go? When are you going to go? If you're going to go early vote or if you're going to go on the day of. So have a plan. That's what I'd love to leave with everybody. Make sure you have a plan.
Absolutely. Have a plan. And if you have a friend too. Take your friend.
That's right. Take one with you. That's for sure. So how have you been doing?
I've been doing good, navigating it all. The theme for last week really was parenting. It was one of those weeks where you have multiple things going on with your kids, and you sit there, you laugh, and you say, God, you have jokes, you're funny. And then it's also one of those weeks where you're like, my goodness, they're growing. My babies are growing. So that's always a moment where you're just kind of like, okay, all right. But in this week, what it taught me is that it made me feel good that my kids are open to communicating with me. And it really warms your heart when you know that you guys can have discussions about things that are rather complicated. So it's been a rewarding week to be a parent. It's a lot going on. It is a lot going on for sure.
That's for sure. And you breathe doing a lot is virtual learning. So
yeah,
I can imagine that can be difficult. You're working from home and she's going to school and maintain structure. How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that? And then I also have my son he's prepping to go to college, and there is a lot of things to do to prep a kid to go to college and narrow things down. So it's been a week. It's been a week.
That's a good segue to my child.
Yes, yes.
In college, and she's part virtual, part on campus. I think she has like 3 classes actually on campus, and then 2 or 3 virtual. So I still have the little nerves with making sure when you go on campus, you're wearing your mask, and you're practicing social distancing, and you're all
Yes.
and so, it's still, even though she's in college in a way, it's very nerve wracking, every day. It's like, okay, Naya, make sure you're doing what you need to do, because it's still very dangerous.
It is. It is. It is. So that's why we're kind of excited. We're excited to have someone come on, because like so many of us, our audience, the parents in our audience, they are navigating a lot. So I am especially happy to bring on our next guest, Miss Melissa Griffin, better known as an HR mom. She has worked in human resources for 17 years, mostly in recruiting and hiring for well-known Fortune 100 companies. She has been she has seen the skills and capabilities of young workers decline over the years and has a front row view of how different parenting styles impact kids' success in the workplace. Melissa has 2 boys, aged 12 and 16, and a daughter who is 6. She is determined to raise them into confident, well-rounded adults who have skills to pay the bills. She manages a Facebook page, a growing online parenting focus group, and offers interviews, coaching, and resume training to help high schoolers, get this, high schoolers prepare to launch, which is awesome. HR Mom, she aims to make you happy while inspiring you to stop parenting and start leading. I cannot wait to welcome her to the show. Please welcome Miss Melissa, HR Mom Griffin. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Doing great.
Awesome.
I too am in the trenches of virtual learning. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary schooler. So
wow.
I'm right in there with you.
Oh, man.
Well, one thing that we do, Melissa, when we start our show, we just like to stop for a moment, pause, and ask you, how are you doing? We do a wellness check. So this isn't about the kids. It's not about work. It's just internally about you. How are you doing with all that you have going on?
I feel like I'm treading water a lot. I don't have a stroke right now. I'm kind of treading water, and that's okay. But this week has been a matter of clearing my plate, saying no, refocusing on what we can agree to. So I'm treading water. That's okay. I can't move forward right now. We're just holding our own.
That's a good way to look at it. I am so excited to get into this conversation. You and I, we spoke about so many great things, and we said we could go on for days. And I can't wait until you're able to share some of those gems that you shared with me for us parents that are navigating balancing work, balancing the kids, balancing home, and somewhere in the midst of that, we're supposed to be getting some level of self-care in there. So talk to us about how you suggest we approach all of this, especially in this day and time where we have virtual learning.
Sure. I got my HR degree right out of school, and the degree was in the psychology of organizations and development. And so how do you build a company and build a team? And I realized as soon as I became a mom that a lot of those same principles apply at home. Wow. And so my family is a team, and I'm the leader, but I'm also a really hardworking member of the team, right? And so I really I've approached parenthood from the beginning, but really the pandemic as well, as we're a team, we're on a mission, we have a series of tasks that we have to complete. Let's divide and conquer. It's all hands on deck. Each member has to know what his or her role is all the time. And each member has to have a say in where we're going, how we get there, how they're going to contribute. And each member has to understand and really embrace what's in it for me. What's in it for me to cooperate? What's in it for me to buy in, right? And so I operate on this. There's three things in our family that are finite, and that's money, energy, and time. And so if we all want to get money to do what we want, time to do what we want, and we want mom to have the energy to help us do what we want, we probably better chip in. So that's kind of our triad of money, energy, and time. If I have to spend all this time doing chores you could be helping me with, I'm not gonna have time to take you, where you want to go. So in the pandemic, I've kind of just said, hey team, everything changed. Let's re-divvy up how we're going to spend our money, energy, and time. And that's kind of the approach we've had. The past doesn't matter. The far-term future doesn't matter. How are we going to function day to day, week to week, right now?
Wow.
There's so much to unpack in what you just said. My goodness.
Money, energy, and time. I love that. I love that. Which is kind of a good segue. You were talking about talking to them about how to spend money, energy, and time, and then you would also decide what you would do with your time. Well, now we're in a time where we're at home, and for me, that's been pretty hard. I'm the introvert of the art of balance it all.
Extrovert, the extrovert.
Yeah, that's right. That's you. Yeah, you're the opposite of me. And I, so it's been very difficult. But being that person that's always on the go all the time, I've passed that down to my child that's always on the go all the time. She likes to be gone, just like mommy, right? But for those parents, what do they do now when you have to stay at home? How do you keep your child connected? And how do you keep them active in a pandemic?
So I would have had an answer that I think I would have had before the pandemic. And then here's the real answer. Okay. The real answer is I do, and parents do, a lot of projecting our emotions onto our kids. And I do more of it than I would have, if I would have put a lie detector test, I would have said that I don't do that as often as I do. I have been sad for my kids for what they're missing out on. I've been disappointed. I've felt that the weight they're carrying is heavy. I'm sad they're missing their friends. I'm sad they're missing school. And I'm kind of going light on their chores, especially at the beginning, going kind of easy on them and having so much grace. And then when I really had a talk with them and said, how is it going? What really are you missing? This is what I heard back. I'm more connected to my friends than I've ever been before.
Wow.
When we were in class, we couldn't talk, we couldn't message. Now that we're home, we're on Discord all the time. We can play games during our breaks. I can spend lunch with who I want to, not just the person I'm assigned to sit next to. They really like the way this is going. Now, I'm not saying all kids are. My kids, and I was shocked. I was like, well, then you need to help out around the house more because I thought you had this big emotional burden going on. So my first advice is let's not predict how they're feeling. Let's not project how they might be feeling because my kids, there are parts of this that they really like. They feel more connected. So I think having one-on-one talks with them and asking questions is number one. How's it going this week? What things can change? What things do I need to do better? Is my number one advice. Is don't assume how they might be doing or how they might be feeling. And then it's kind of we talked about this, TT's, my philosophy is no parenting advice I give you, no wisdom I share matters if you haven't figured out and embraced that your kids are on their own path. And so kids, when I had a baby, I kind of felt like he was on my path. I had this little accessory, right? As soon as he's old enough to reason with, I realized he's on his own path. He's not going to like what I like. He's not going to act how I act. He's not going to be who I am. And we can't go in front of them and clear their path. And we can't go behind them and clean up their messes.
Right.
We have to realize that we're a family. There's 4 of us on our own paths. We're traveling this journey, our own individual journey, and we're looking across the way and we're supporting each other. But our kids are on their own path. And we are there to toss them the resources and toss them support and toss them the help they need from our paths over to their paths.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I've heard some parents that I'm connected to say that their kids absolutely love virtual learning. My daughter, for instance, she likes the fact that it's not as disruptive. She doesn't have to listen to people talking when she's working. They turn off the cameras. She's able to focus in on her work. There are aspects that different kids like, and there are aspects that the kids do not like. And I love that you point out that you have to embrace that they have a voice. And for so many of us parents, it's either the way that we were raised, or just our philosophy on parenting. We don't really approach things like that. The way that you are talking about approaching it, taking it back to managing it as if you managed a team, is that you're looking at your kids. They have goals, they have feedback. You're turning into a manager. And that is a huge step for so many parents to come out of that box. So talk to us a little bit about why, and then I have a follow-up question.
So it's a big, huge shift. And I made it between my first son and my second son. So my first son, he's 16 now. He was so compliant. He was so obedient, so peaceful, so content. And I thought, I am a really good parent. And then I had my second one. And I had to apologize to the Lord that I just took credit for all of the work that he did when he sewed that kid together. So I realized, okay, I'm going to have to manage in two completely different ways. And I'm going to have to figure out how each of these kids tick, what's important to them. And I started to think, what kind of manager am I? And culturally, I come from the South. My dad's a high school football coach. When I was little, I just said, yes, sir. My voice they didn't ask for my voice.
Right.
They didn't explain things to me. They didn't talk things through and get my buy-in. My buy-in was, I don't want a spanking, right? And so for me to shift, it's actually my parents listening to me going, you're saying way too many words. You're giving too big of an explanation. That kid is the tail wagging the dog, right?
Yeah.
But it is shown over and over that when we respect our kids as people who have full agency and full independence over their own choices, they take the reins. They're confident. They feel valued. They belong. And they don't go to the internet or to their friends for this sense of belonging or this sense of control.
Wow.
It's a huge shift. I was not raised this way.
Yeah. It is a huge switch. So you talked about you have kids with different personalities. One kid can be totally different than the other. I have my firstborn is an introvert and, like you said, was very compliant. And my second, she is the extrovert and very opinionated. So how can a parent respond specifically when you have a child who is determined to march at their own drumbeat, and who may not take well to the structure that you're trying to provide with it as a team?
So I feel like there are parts of this journey that they're on that are negotiable. They're flexible, and we can really flex and meet each child's individual needs. And then there are parts of this family that are set, that are set. So, when I'm speaking in public, I give this analogy and show this slide of a dog on an agility course. And so, to win, the dog has to jump over this thing and go through this thing and go through this tunnel. But the owners can do whatever they want. They can use a treat, they can use punishment, they can use their voices, they can use snapping. And so everyone has different techniques to get their specific dogs to do this trick. But one thing is, you can't touch them, you can't pick them up, and you can't make them do it. And I feel like that's how parenting is. We have to go, what things do I need to say to motivate them? What skills do they need to go through these obstacles? Which ones are harder for one kid? And, what's harder for a poodle than a dachshund, right? And what I wish I could do is just pick them up and put them on there, right?
Yeah.
And that's what our parents did. They put us in there. They did some things for us, or used force, right? So with each of my kids, I'm like, they're going to be motivated by different things. They're going to be, I'm going to have to approach them in different ways. Certain words work better. But the course they have to run is, these are your chores. We're going to show respect, right? We're going to do certain things for our own. We're going to be independent. The course doesn't change. The family mission doesn't change, but my approach definitely changes. I have one with who's neurotypical, high achiever. My second one, my middle son, is ADHD. We're very open about that in our family. So he's not neurotypical, and online school is a disaster for him. And then I have a little girl that I just adopted right before the pandemic.
Wow.
And so she comes from a hard place, and she just moved in, and she has trauma. And so I parent her completely differently. And sometimes I just trust my instincts, and a lot of times I'm just reading with experts. But just like a manager on a team, you manage them each to what motivates them, what makes them tick, and then how they were sewn together, because they were sewn together like that for a reason.
Well, Pam, I now understand why she's just treading water when she just explained all of that.
Yes.
My goodness. And then you have time to talk to us about how to be successful as parents. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And what I love about your approach is very similar to your team, with work. And so I love that. And so when you're sitting down with your children now and you look back over the eclectic school year or the whole year, let's just look at all of 2020. And you guys are talking about, you said the mission doesn't change. And part of that mission is to make sure that you're building confidence and independence in them and value and all of that. So when you look at that, how do you talk to them now, or takeaways of what we're all going through now, but specifically in your household, what do you do to help them succeed, to prepare them for what's next?
Okay. So, I talk to my kids a lot. Of course, sometimes they'll be like, can you not HR mom me right now, mom? Is family, if our family is a team at work, if our team at work goes through a major restructure, restructures happen, companies get purchased. We circle up our team and we say, okay, we're the leaders, and they're looking at us, right? And they're looking at us to see, should we be panicking? Should we be freaking out? But we take a deep breath, we circle up our team, and we look at the new landscape, right? So, okay, now we've merged with another company. So certain projects are no longer in the budget. Certain initiatives have to be put on hold. Certain behaviors that used to be off limits, now we can do. Now people can work from home, right? We set new goals, and we have to craft an entirely new, short-term way we're going to work, right? Yes. And we wait for more information.
Yes.
And then as a leader, I pull each of my team members aside, and I say, what are you worried about? And one of them says, I'm worried about money. And one of them says, I'm worried about this promotion I was going to get. And another one says, I'm worried about my seniority. They all have different things that they're stressed about. And I just feel like in families, we go through major restructures like this. We have divorce, and we have a new baby added. We had an adoption. You move, mom goes back to work, all kinds of big changes. And we want to raise kids who know how to manage their emotions through those things, know that they're resilient and that they're going to be okay on the other end, and that they're in a team and we're all going to do this together, right? So for me, it's important to just discuss with our kids, here are the things that aren't going to change. So here are the things that are not going to change. We work as a team. We value being generous. We still treat each other with respect. We still want our home to be peaceful. We're not going to raise voices. These are the things we've already agreed as a team. This is our mission. Work is shared by all. Fun is shared by all. So I just kind of repeated, this is our family mission. Those things aren't going to change. That's stable. Here's what is going to change. Mom's drowning. So we're going to use paper plates for a month. And we're going to use plastic silverware for a month, because something has to go. Yeah. So here are the deadlines that have to be extended. here are some things that I'm going to let go. Beds no longer have to be made until we're all treading water again. Baseboards, fan blades, that's off the table, right? Right now, we're going to do these things that matter. We're going to make it to church. We're going to shower every day. And that's kind of the leadership, is the calm that comes over the team when the manager says, what is on your plate that's stressing you out? What do you think we should put aside? What do you think we should put aside? And my son says, is there any way we can pay someone to mow the lawn? I'm stressed. I'm absolutely stressed.
Wow.
Is there any way? And I said, you know what? Let's call your dad. He doesn't live here, but he's always asking, how can I help the kids? Like, maybe dad will come over and help you. Let's use our resources and let's figure out what else can we take off these kids' plates. For me personally, it was, I'm no longer expecting A's. B's are a complete win right now. For me, if my kids bring home a B in the middle of a pandemic, they're killing it. Because can you imagine, ladies, if you and I were graded right now?
Oh my God.
Right.
And we would be screaming to our bosses, how can you expect an A in a pandemic? But
yes.
Right. So
yes.
I just told them, hey guys, the standards have changed and this is why. This is how it's going to look. And that helps them to buy in. To go, okay. Because if you're the boss, and this is what I see on my page every day, the boss, the mom, okay, the parent, running around crazy, spent, exhausted, pouring from an empty cup. Maybe you just need someone to give you permission to say, we are going through a restructure. Certain things have to be postponed. Standards have to be changed. And go to your team and say, kids, here's all the extra that has come on my plate. What can you take off my plate?
Oh my goodness.
What can you take off my plate? And I told my kids, I can do sandwiches. We're going to do peanut butter and jelly Monday, and we're going to do ham and cheese on Thursday. If that isn't satisfactory, one of you needs to pick up helping with a meal.
You are checking me on so many levels. I think you're checking on so many levels, because I think, we have this innate ability to juggle all these different balls. As women, we all know we have 50 different things on our mind, and we aim for perfection in most of those things. I never have thought about a peanut butter jelly or a ham and cheese for dinner. I'm thinking full-blown meals, right? And it's just, I guess we aren't thinking about, well, how can we lessen the load on ourselves? We're thinking, how can we keep perfection across all lines? And I had thought about that, but that literally is what we're doing. So in some ways, we're putting the weight on ourselves.
Absolutely.
This is eye-opening for me.
Yeah. And I have another business phrase that my family uses all the time is, no one's the boss of us. No one's the boss of us.
That's right.
There's no one here to say that we have to have the backyard mowed every other week.
Yeah.
Let's do it once a month, and now it's manageable.
Yeah.
No one's the boss of us. And so no one's going to tell me paper plates and plastic silverware at my home when it's not a birthday party. No one's the boss of us.
Yeah.
And at the end of this, no one's going to remember that you kept the same level of standard of meal prep. Right?
No one, not one person. No.
And I made tacos the other night, and I drove through the drive-thru and picked up the rice and beans. I was like, because I'm done. And I can't. And the fact of the matter is, those are the things we have to take off of our plates so that we can have time for prayer, so we can have time for exercise. The things that no one in 6 months is going to care about, someone inside of us that thinks we have to do all those things to be good enough is still trying to boss us around.
Yeah. So you're shifting to self-care, and that actually was where I was about to go. So I want to make sure that I'm all inclusive, because dads are struggling just as much as moms are right now navigating all of this. And so what are some tips and tricks they can start using, our audience can start using, on top of just letting go of our standards, to start lightening the load and really incorporate some self-care into all of this that we're navigating?
So once you have circled your team and said, okay, I'm not going to have one person busting their tail all day and one person 10 hours of Instagram. That's just actually misusing resources. You'd be fired for that, right? You've got a capable person who could be doing all. Have you distributed tasks to other people in the household, right? And that's number one. And then we go, where are the hours that I'm just losing hours? They're slipping away. They're being frittered. I can't really give up virtual learning time. I can't really give up these meetings. But there is an hour and a half between when school is let out to dinner that my family, we're just kind of scattered around. And we're just kind of like, I'm on Facebook and one of them's watching a show. And there's about 4:30 to 6 that we're not using very well. Because they've all done their school, I feel like they have screen time. You know what? I'm going to reclaim 30 minutes of that. And I'm going to put it on my calendar. I'm going to say, kids, do not talk to me for these 30 minutes. Unless you are bleeding, which you already know what the first aid kit is, actually, right?
Put the Band-Aid on.
Reclaim that 30 minutes and say, I'm not going to order my groceries during that time. I'm not going to do something for the family. I'm not going to fold clothes. For 30 minutes, I'm going to do something for me, even if it's just a crossword puzzle or even if it is scrolling on Facebook, but something that refreshes me. So finding, my number one advice is find where, okay, number one's delegate. Number two, find where you're losing time by just not being intentional about it. Where can you steal 30 minutes? And then plan that time. So tomorrow I have a girlfriend I need to call. I haven't called her and I've got to call her back. Tomorrow at that time, I'm calling her and it's on my calendar now.
Okay.
And that refreshes me. So I think it's just take control of those little pockets, because anything bigger than that feels overwhelming to me right now. Like people saying, start an exercise routine, or I'm like, tell me to lay on my hammock, I can do it.
I love her.
Like, and it really is about what is good for you, right? It really boils down to that.
That's what I'm talking about. The next time you have the 30 minutes, call me, Melissa, because we have to talk. I absolutely love it.
Oh, man.
So I have two questions to close out. But before that, I want to go back and talk to TT, because Melissa, I told you, Melissa just said it. She said it right here. Like, nobody's going to know 6 months from now that I didn't cook every day. Right? Who's the boss of me, Melissa?
No one's the boss of you. Right?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh, man.
I have one question and then I have a follow-up that's totally different. But you've talked a lot about mission, a family mission. So I wanted to ask you, like, how important is that, that a family has a mission statement? Well,
if we do not provide some sort of a vision of here's where we're headed, or here's what our family is supposed to do, we can easily have kids who feel like, what is all this for? What am I doing? Rising and grinding and going, same day after day. It's so unmotivating, right? Imagine those companies, and we've all worked for them. I'll speak for myself, where you're going, what are we doing? Like, where are we headed? And I want something that inspires me. Because the day-to-day grind is not inspiring enough to keep our kids working at it. But if they know that this day-to-day grind is what gets me to these aspirational goals that we've set as a family, and I'm not even talking like super complex. I'm saying we want to go on a vacation every summer. This is how much we have to save. So when I say, hey, this will cut into our vacation fund, that's what I mean by just short-term goals. It gives our kids something that is beyond when the immediate is hopeless, they have something to hold on to. And so in some ways it's a surface level so that we can have ice cream on Friday. Sometimes it's bigger so we can go on vacation, but most of the time it's even bigger. We want to be inclusive. We want to show God's love to others. We want to make sure that we're standing up for the marginalized. Those things are big and important. So when your friendships or your video games or your grades, when that stuff's not going well, it's not devastating.
Yeah.
Because put it in perspective already. I think it's critical to have a family mission. And I think it's critical for each kid to have their own vision for themselves. So we have a family mission, but we each have our own vision. What kind of husband do you want to be? What kind of wife do you want to be? Do you want to get married? What kind of job do you want? What do you want your house to look like when you're an adult? That will help them when they start going, I want to be my son wants to be a hacker, but we're hoping he comes to
it's a lot of money in that.
That's what he calls it. I'm talking, you mean cybersecurity. I get it. We all have our gifts. That's what I'm going to hold on to when he doesn't want to do his homework, is to say, you know that if you want to get in, you have to have this many, that you've got to, this is why we're pushing through, because you've got this vision for yourself. So it just really puts middle school and high school in perspective for them. When you're, my kids don't have social media yet, but when they do, if they get outed on social media or bullied on social media, I don't want that to devastate them, because that's where they're centered. I want them to be centered so far beyond this that it's not devastating.
Wow.
That's good. That's good. I have one more question, and Titi may have another one, but one thing that we didn't really talk a lot about, if at all, but how do you manage your children's fear? I mean, we all, as we think about the pandemic, as we watch CNN and just so many things, numbers go up and all that, do you have any conversations in your house about fear? Like, why are we wearing the mask? What are the, those kinds of things?
So first thing I do is limit a lot of that exposure. So I limit a lot of their exposure to, I'm not watching the news. I'm not watching videos of, I don't want them to go up and down, up and down, up and down. I want them to say, I want them to have a 10,000 foot view of what's going on versus having this exhaustion, this empathy exhaustion that a lot of us are feeling because we're watching it day to day. So that's the number one thing, is reducing exposure. And I have to model that for them. Because I'll find myself reading the news every morning and having reactions. Can you believe he said that? Now he's doing this. And I'm like outraged all the time. And that's not a good model for them. It's to say, you know what? Glennon Doyle has a great analogy. And she says, when you're on a plane and there's turbulence, what do? You look to the flight attendant. Yes. And if she's panicking and she feels nervous, then you're like, oh dear. But if she's calm, like she knows behind the scenes. So if she's calm, we're calm. And so she says, in families, when there's turbulence, just keep serving the peanuts. Just stay calm and keep serving she says, beeping peanuts. Okay. Just keep serving the peanuts.
I love it.
So they're looking to me. I'm the flight attendant, and they're looking to me to go, should we be panicking? Should we be freaking out right now? And then I just tell them, you're not the main character of this story. So I'm going to be a little edgy, but raising two white boys in America, they're not the center of the story. And if I'm not careful, they're told over and over and over that they are. And so I'm very intentional to say, you're not the main character in this. The immunocompromised are. The kids who don't have good internet access are. The marginalized who don't have a parent at home to help, that have a degree, those are the main characters in this story. And it puts them on the side of the helpers. And so a lot of ways to get kids' fear under control is to put them on the side of someone who has control. What can you do to go from being a victim and feeling helpless and feeling unsure to feeling a sense of like I'm grounded, I'm planted in something? That's a big part of fear is helplessness. And so there's a lot we can do. We're going to wear our masks, because if the science is wrong, then we were what? We're a piece of fabric on our face. If the science is right, we could be saving a lot of lives. So let's just be
Mhm.
on the right side of that, just in case. Doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, one thing after another, and we just say, here's what we're going to do. And we've really quarantined. We've stayed home. And it's not even because we're immunocompromised. It's because I do not have time to have a sick household.
Yeah.
I can't.
Absolutely.
My plate is so full. I can't even imagine having to manage that. So some of it is just, we're staying home. But I think if we model calm, they tend to follow suit.
That is absolutely true.
Keep serving the peanuts.
I'm serving those damn peanuts.
There you go.
All right. Well, this has been extremely enlightening for me. I think I did have one closing thought as I was thinking through things, and I think it's just really to reiterate that if there's one lesson to learn from what you've said is that our children have a voice. They have opinions to ask often. And I go back to for many homes, this may not be the average or the norm, right? I have a household where my kids, I learned this week that they are very open to approaching me on various things. But for kids for families where this may be new, they may be ready to try to incorporate this with their families. And they're about to face yet another transition. If things continue to go well, we're going to transition from this all the way back to going back to school, going back to work, which in itself is going to take another mental transformation. As they are looking to do this, what are some ways that they can make it feel comfortable for their kids? Who think about when you're managing teams and you are the new manager and the previous manager was harsh or managed in a hard way, or you didn't have an open door policy.
Yep.
Right? Imagine that. And now this new manager comes in and is saying, speak freely, but all of the workers remember what would happen when they spoke freely. So
Right.
thinking of that scenario, for some of the audience out here, that this may be a new approach, how do you suggest they reach out to their team to make sure that they feel comfortable and maybe do it in a graceful way that is not immediate and an all open response?
Sure. I mean, if my dad had one day, and he and I've talked about this, I mean, he did the best he knew how to do, and he was a great dad, and that's how everyone parented, right? And so he and I've talked about it. If he were to go back, the approach he would make. So I'm not bad mouthing him on camera. But if one day he would have come to me and said, you know what, I'm changing my ways. You can come to me now. I would have been like,
It's a setup.
Is this really safe?
Yeah.
Really safe, right? So psychological safety is a complete requirement to parent like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I say to my kids is, Dr. Angelou, when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
And right now I know better,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm new at it and I'm not going to be perfect at it and I'm going to stumble. But I want this family to be a family where we can fail. And I'm going to fail you and I'm going to make mistakes. But this is the new direction that I want to take us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first thing is I want to make a change. I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
So that the first time you get it wrong, they're not going, see, I knew it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the first time that they are vulnerable enough to say, hey, Mom, because my son came to me and said, hey, Mom, you're being really strict about our room and your room is a disaster. And I was like, who taught this kid to manage up like this? Who taught this kid to speak up to his leader? And I said, and my first response was, you know how much I have on my plate? You know how busy I am? And I thought, no, the first time they are vulnerable and speak up to you, you have to reward that with complete openness.
Okay.
And so it's like, oh, my ego is attached. I got to put my ego aside and say, you know what? You're right. You're right. I'm not modeling that for you. I either need to loosen up on your room or commit to cleaning mine or explain to you that the standards are going to be different right now. But I'm thankful that you gave me that feedback. I mean, thank you. You're right. I am inconsistent. Doesn't mean they're always going to do what they ask, but if you're making a big change, you have to be super, super, super humble and super intentional to make those first few times go really, really well.
That's good. That is good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You have dropped gem after gem after gem. You surely have me thinking a different way about parenting, and I hope our audience has seen some new ways that they can approach this whole 2020 and all that it encompasses. So thank you for joining us this week on the art of balancing it all. And to our audience, make sure to visit our website, theartofbalancingitall.com, where you can join our tribe and subscribe to the show, which is available everywhere you listen to your podcast, your favorite podcast provider. Be sure to subscribe, and so you'll never miss a show.
Never ever. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at The Art of Balancing It All on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you love the show, let us know. Leave us a rating so we can continue to bring you amazing episodes with dope guests like Melissa. Thank you for listening. We'll see you real soon.
All right. Happy birthday, Pam.
Thank you. Girl, I'm so excited. Whew.